Where will you go? Multicultural Education for Pre-Service Teachers at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire by Jessica Johnson
and Mara Stormer. Over the past 20 years, the definition of multicultural education has continued to evolve. In our opinion, the best way to describe it is education and instruction designed for the support of multiple cultures, races, or other student population groups in an educational system, and/or such an approach is designed to foster inclusion, respect, and success among all groups in the educational environment. This means doing all that we can to eliminate stereotyping, prejudice, racism, and bigotry.
According to Dr. James A. Banks, author of Educating Citizens in a Multicultural Society, he developed the 5 dimensions of multicultural education to help educators see that content integration, say putting content about Mexican Americans or African Americans into the curriculum, is important, but that it's only the first dimension of multicultural education, and that multicultural education has at least 5 dimensions.
The first dimension is content integration. This dimension is the one most considered when discussing multicultural education, bringing multicultural artifacts into subject areas such as social studies and language arts. Unfortunately, this is not as simple to do across all content areas.
The second dimension is knowledge construction. This is simply helping students to investigate and understand material from all cultural viewpoints that are represented in the classroom, or in short, helping them to become critical thinkers in that respect.
The third dimension is equity pedagogy. This involves teachers modifying their methods in order to allow students from all cultural groups and both genders to succeed. This means going beyond just integrating diverse content, but actually changing the ways we teach with particular groups in mind. It is not a matter of defining students' learning styles, but rather collecting a wide variety of strategies to accommodate a more expansive range of students.
The fourth dimension is prejudice reduction. Prejudice exists, no buts about it, especially among older students who have been developing particular attitudes about certain groups since entering the education system. It's simply our job to be sensitive to this fact and to use methods that help to create more positive cultural attitudes.
The fifth dimension is empowering school culture and social structure. This simply involves going beyond our own classroom and looking at the culture of the entire school. Looking at the bigger picture is key, learning to appreciate the diverse dimensions of our school community and identifying how the environment can be made more equitable.
So, as pre-service teachers at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, what does this mean for us? As teacher education students, the world is literally our classroom. Our craft of sharing knowledge with students and helping them to become inquisitive and critical thinkers in a diverse world allows us the flexibility to do so in limitless places. Maybe your calling is to teach abroad. Maybe it's to put your valuable educational skills into practice as a Peace Corps or AmeriCorps volunteer. Maybe it's to gain tenure eventually at a university. Maybe it's simply to take your respective 1 through 12 licenses wherever life may take you within the next couple of years. So, where will we go? No matter where we go, diversity will be sure to follow. But before we can decide where we will go, we have to consider where we will start, as pre-service teachers in, quote, not so diverse, unquote, Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
Here we look at the demographics of 3 area schools courtesy of the DPI Annual School Report Card for the 2013-2014 school year. These Eau Claire area schools include Longfellow Elementary School, DeLong Middle School, and North High School.
Actually, Eau Claire is home to an abundance of different cultures, and as pre-service teachers, we are very lucky to have the opportunity to possibly teach in one of these cities' diverse schools. Looking at Longfellow Elementary, with a school enrollment of 255 students, 2.4% identify as being American Indian or Alaskan Native, 17.6% identify as being Asian or Pacific Islander, 10.2% identify as being Black, not Hispanic, 4.7% identify as being Hispanic, and 65.1% identify as being white and not Hispanic. Moving on to DeLong Middle School, with a school enrollment of 903 students, 1.2% of them identify as being American Indian or Alaskan Native. 11.7% identify as being Asian or Pacific Islander. 5.1% identify as being Black, not Hispanic. 4.3% identify as being Hispanic. And 77.6% identify as being white, not Hispanic. Lastly, we take a look at North High School, with a school enrollment of 1,329 students. Out of that number, 1.3% identify as being American Indian or Alaskan Native, 15.3% identify as being Asian or Pacific Islander, 3.5% identify as being Black, not Hispanic, 2.4% identify as being Hispanic, and 77.5% identify as being white, not Hispanic. Based on all of this data, it is reinforced that multiculturalism is prevalent in our local schools. As you can see, these schools in our community are only so much as meeting our state's expectations, with overall accountability ratings of 65.3, 69.1, and 72.2 out of 100, respectively. So, what does this mean about the implementation of multicultural education?
As Gloria Ladson-Billings urges in her article, "It's not the culture of poverty, it's the poverty of culture," we need to stop attributing our schools' achievement ratings to cultural differences. As pre-service teachers at UWEC, how can we do our part to ensure that our schools exceed expectations? Don't know where to start? The answer is to start early. Whether you are receiving your student placement this Friday, next semester, or a year from now, it is never too early to get to know your future students and their cultures. We must hold ourselves accountable to the celebration of the diversity among our future students, their families, schools, and the larger communities.
We can do this by simply exploring our community and being cognizant of the multicultural representations within, such as discovering local restaurants, retailers, entertainment, holiday celebrations, special ceremonies, and other events. Visit the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire's Office of Multicultural Affairs or the City of Eau Claire's website to help you get started. As pre-service teachers, visit the DPI website to learn more about the multicultural background of your school. Getting to know your students in every aspect is the first step for becoming an advocate for multicultural education. So, as an advocate, where will you go?